Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Asad Lalji. Welcome to another exciting live session of AVID Online. And for those who are joining us for the first time, a special warm welcome to you. And please refer to the chat box for more information on AVID Learning, the work that we do, and more information on our partners for this evening. We've completed 8 exciting months of online programming. In fact, in April this year, we launched our first digital further learning campaign, AVID Online. And we've covered a range of topics and issues across the breadth of the arts and connected with an ever growing online community with a wide range of local, national, and international speakers, bringing truly the best from around the world to your screens and ensuring that even in this trying and difficult times, we stay true to our mantra that learning never stops. We're now well into our ninth month, and we've curated and published over 140 programs and counting. In fact, tonight is the 142nd, which is a mix of live sessions and AVID online videos. And we are still going strong, and we continue to spread the positivity of the arts to uplift, educate, and inspire our community. And this brings us to our evening session, which is part of Creative Collaborations 2020, a thematized set of programming that explores perspectives on creative collaboration between the arts and design and looks at collaborative efforts and projects from before and during the pandemic and how artists, designers, performers, writers, and other creative individuals come together to match their synergies and respond to each other and create. I hope you've caught some of our fascinating videos we've showcased so far. Tonight, the Ghoda Association, Kommune India, Royal Opera House Mumbai, and Avid Learning present Creative Collaboration 2020, Technology and the Future of Theatre, a fascinating live session on the collaborative future of theatre and how all the arts can come together using the power of technology to reach a more and diverse viewers. I'd now like to give a warm virtual welcome to our expert panelists, actor, writer, director, founder Commune, Birth Mother, Spokenfest, Roshan Abbas, theatre director, performer, curator at Commune, Sheena Khalid. For more about this very impressive panel, please refer to their bios that have been posted in the chat section. They should have also been emailed to you earlier. In today's section, our speakers will discuss their project, Lockdown Love, a unique theatre performance that involves working in collaboration with different members of creative communities across geographies, genres, and disciplines. Using this project as a case study, Sheena and Roshan will share their own fascinating take on the importance of working in collaboration in the arts, which is now important more than ever, so important in this day. Please note that the session will last about 75 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A. So please keep your questions ready. Start posting them in the Q&A box. On that note, thank you once again for tuning in. Over to you, Roshan and Sheena. Look forward to a fascinating session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asad. Thank you, Avid Learning. Thank you, all the partners, Kala Ghoda, Royal Opera House, and of course, our team at Commune. For everybody who's tuned in, Commune is something that we set up in 2015 more as an incubator of creative arts. That's where it started. And what we were hoping to do was actually provide, we have a simple line which says every story deserves a stage. And with that, we believe that, whatever it might be, whether you're a new age performing artist who's doing spoken word or slam poetry or a storyteller or do theater or have started doing, any work in singing, songwriting, all of these were small ideas that we started working with. Initially, our thought was that people would come to us with bigger ideas, and we would try to find them funds. And and I think artists very often, I just find it very difficult to take their ideas to execution. They remain as just big ideas in your mind. When we found that to be a little difficult, we said, okay, what we'll do? We'll try to do this ourselves. And so we started with a very DIY kind of approach in everything that we do. So initially the team at Commune was two people. There was actually, I would say one and a half, because I was doing three other jobs, and this is what I used to do in my spare time. And I picked up one little. I'm a bit of a geek, so I picked up one software to design posts on Instagram in the early days. I mean, Instagram 2015 was still at its cusp, and when I would post on these, I went out in Warsaw and found, which is in Bombay, and I found one bungalow called Ahmed, which belonged to a friend who used to do sessions in yoga, and there used to be a lot of calisthenics and dance till 8 p.m. And we would take it up from 8:30 to 9:30 just to get people to come together. So it was a very hack your own growth approach, a very DIY approach. No monies, no funds. It was all a passion project. But people kept coming along. So people like Tess Joseph, who was also a part of this project that we're going to tell you about, came, and everybody gave up themselves freely, which very often in the creative arts people do, because people realize that this isn't the most easy of things to be doing. And so everybody would come on board, whether it was Ankur Tiwari, the musician, Gaurav Kapoor, the commentator, who then became later partners at Commune, or as I said, Tess, who's a founding member, Dew Kuna, who's now in Australia and doing a big theatre festival as we speak. And along the way, we also met Sheena, because Sheena, with her theatre group, used to do some amazing plays, and Tess would come and tell us about them. And we were like, we should go and become a part of this. And we just felt that for performers to be able to give their best at our bigger projects, which was Spokenfest, which became rather big over time, we needed somebody who would be a curator, who would bring new people, new talent, new ideas, new thoughts, and also, of course, be able to hone people's performances, because many of the people who come to perform at Commune are first-time performers who are just about discovering themselves. So that's how we all met, and that's where we began. And then, just as the pandemic started, we were doing really well. We just finished 2 editions of Spoken, one in Delhi, one in Bombay. We were very excited. We just done a big online festival, which surprisingly, Sheena, if you remember, was hosted by Tess, you and me, and we were just sitting together and doing that. And that happened in March. And April, suddenly, we were all, there was a pause button pressed in our life. So I'm going to leave it to Sheena to tell you about what started this entire thing at that point. And there's a small presentation which we'll keep sharing with you. Please feel free to put in your questions in the Q&A, because otherwise, one gets distracted by going to the chat box, and we're not seeing that right now. So please put your questions in the Q&A, and in the last 15 minutes, we'll take up your questions as well. Thank you once again for joining us on a Saturday. I'm sure there are tons of other things that you have to do, but I do promise that whatever we will share will possibly be enriching, and there will be some learning definitely for you all. And thank you once again, Avid, for giving us this opportunity. Sheena.
Thank you, Roshan. And yes, thank you, Abbas, for having us here. I think Roshan has done a really good job of, setting the stage, giving you an idea about Commune and my introduction into Commune. So April happened, and all of a sudden we were in complete lockdown, and most of us, myself included, I was completely at sea. I had dates lined up, because I also run a theatre company. I had dates lined up for that. We had a few Commune live shows lined up, and all of a sudden everything just came to a standstill. And I think it's for moments like it's in moments like that are very overwhelming for an artist. And I think it's also it also is really fertile ground for growth. And that's exactly what I have learned being at Commune, is that anything that happens can be an opportunity to do something. So here we were, all of us just completely lost, and Roshan just put a call together and said, you know what, why don't we do an online play? And I remember initially being like, no, I don't think I could just do another play reading. I feel like just emotionally, I don't think I can handle a play reading. And Roshan said, no, not a play. Let's do not a play reading, let's do a play. So we kind of got on a call together, Tess, Roshan, myself, Arpit, a few other people from the Commune team, and we were brainstorming. And the thing that for us, what was very important was we did not want to be oblivious of the fact that this is the medium that we're working in. So we didn't just want to take, for example, Streetcar named Desire and pretend like we're all, in a house together and performing the play. We wanted to acknowledge the fact that, hey guys, this is something that has never happened before. We are really, as a human race, we have never seen something like this. And now we are all confined to just communication like this. And how can we reflect that in a playful manner in the form of theater? And so we had many discussions, and there were things that we were reading, and there was this wonderful play by Jonathan Rand called Check Please, which was interesting, and we thought, oh, there's some ideas there. Then somebody else we met was talking about how dating apps just made the switch like this. All of a sudden, Bumble, Tinder, all of them had the ability to video call from your phone. So you were having socially distanced dates. And it just made sense because people were in isolation, people were alone, and they wanted to reach out. So I think all of these ideas just kind of met at the right time. And because of Tess Joseph, who is a casting director, we were able to get really, really fine actors who just, these are actors who otherwise throughout the year are constantly blocked. But again, because the timing was just so right, all of a sudden they also freed up and they had time to work on other passion projects, that we all came together and we developed this and we developed a script and that's how Lockdown Love came about. And I think for me, it was just such a satisfying process to be part of because it was completely new. It was nothing that we had done before. There was so much learning on the job. And at the same time, it was something that at the start of lockdown was something very joyous and very playful that we were able to give audiences.
Yeah. So, Sheena, I think, has given you a great segue about how we started. And Dhwani, if you can start sharing the presentation, then it'll give people a little bit of visual relief from just seeing Sheena and me. Though, of course, you could keep watching Sheena.
But also.
Yeah. No, that's why I said. I said Sheena is all right, but I'm in this mood lighting kind of situation. So that's Lockdown Love. This creative which we made, if you see, is also a smart way of communication. And I feel that, it's very important for the design of anything to be able to communicate what you're doing. So if you just look at the creative, and if you were to hide half your screen and not look at the name on the right-hand side of the line, you can see that there are these two screens through which one person is handing a heart to the other. The colors are obviously very, very symbolic, Then there is this online play done live ... yes live, right? You see that? So we actually created this because our whole idea was, no, this is not something that is pre-recorded, because a lot of people were showing you beautifully produced pieces of content. And therefore, it was important to get people excited about the fact that this was happening live. In fact, when we put out our first social media, we said India's first online play done live, and somebody from Kolkata wrote to us saying, we've already done one Zoom play and whatever. And we were like, listen, this is not something that we want to boast about in any way. It is amongst the first. And we were still very excited about the same thing. So Lockdown Love was the name of the production. Just to give you a little bit of a synopsis on the next slide. Dhwani, if you can move to the next slide, yeah. So it's what Sheena said. So I've actually done this play, Check Please, which is the original play from which we adapted it. Check Please is done in Check Please 1, Check Please 2, Check Please 3, because when he wrote it, Jonathan Rand didn't know it's going to become so popular. So the very first Check Please is about a girl who's just moved to a new city, and she's going through, she's been set up for these dates. So occasionally it's a setup, occasionally it's somebody who sent a bio. And when Check Please was originally written, I think it was more about Facebook, etc., and it wasn't about dating apps. But we felt it would be fun to do this around a dating app, and therefore it became a lot about the bios that people had. We kept it under an hour. It's very difficult to try to keep people's interest for over an hour on a screen. And we found some really fun people, as Sheena was telling you, and you'd get to see them as we go along. If you notice on the right-hand side, when it talks of the credits which are written there, it says directed by Sheena, host and technical director. And I mean, it's really, really important, just like you have a stage manager, production designer, all of these things. A technical director for what's happening on Zoom is critical. If you're doing it on Zoom today, you can do it on about 20 other technologies as well. Um, you know, Casting, criticism, and of course, cherubic bites are from Tess Joseph, because Tess, as I said, is, we call her Khalisi. She's always there to criticize and comment and to pull us up. She's a warm demander. And she actually bought the best because she actually came on and did something. My son Arslan actually was the assistant director of the play, much against his protestations. We called him in because he's smart with graphics, and youngsters are much better with machines. So, like many of us sometimes even have got, a little bit of technophobia, which many of these people don't have. And we also roped in one or two other people to join us in this entire thing. It's a really fun play about the boy having dates and the girl having dates, and after the dates at the end, how they meet, because in the original play also they both have gone to the same restaurant to date people who they really feel they're not going to get along with, and they bump into each other, and then with a little bit of conversation, it's left, check please, one is left at a point of saying, oh, they are now going to head out on a date. And it's a good happy ending that you want in a rom-com kind of play. Next slide. Yeah. The important thing is find the right script. Now, very often you may not know it. And as exactly what Sheena said, that, oh, we can do Streetcar Named Desire. You saw Hamilton has been done by Disney. It's there, but it's a fully produced performance which has been shot. So if you're going to use this as your screen, you must find something that is an idea that can work with multiple Zoom windows, an adaptation that can work. So I think it's really important to have the right resources. And Sheena's already told you about the fact of how, I already had the script, and we got people to come in. Then after a couple of readings, we made our adaptations. We figured, oh, when the phone rings, what are we going to show? How will the transition happen? So all those important elements are important in an adapt as well, because in the early days of Zoom, and you must understand, for most of us, the word Zoom was a button on your camera, right? In March and April, it suddenly took on a new meaning. And when we came in here, there are small things in Zoom that you really need to understand, correct? So which window will be active? The active speaker window. Should people be watching it in 4-window view or single window view? Should they be watching with 2 people? Now you can spotlight more than 1 person, right? And people are smartly using all of these things now. So I think it's important to find the right script for this screen. You could do anything. Frankly, you could even do a classic Shakespeare play if you wanted to, but will people enjoy it when they have the option of going live? Will they enjoy it if they can go to YouTube and watch 50 performances when they can see a cinematic version of the same? So think about that. Think of what your competitive environment is. Next slide. This was the team. Sheena, Tess, myself, but Kommune and Encompass, again, Kommune you heard about. Encompass is the event agency that I have been part of. I mean, I set it up in '99 and it's been there ever since. But it was important again to have them because initially it's a very all hands on deck. So you need graphics design. You suddenly need a prop. You require somebody to help with music. There are many elements that come in. So don't try to do it all yourself is the message I want to give you. Yes, it feels very nice, but nobody's giving you a gold medal. Nobody is, suddenly giving you an award because you did it by yourself. And I sometimes find that creators tend to become, I don't know why, but somehow they tend to become this all to myself, No, I'll do it. Because there's this little fear of either share. I don't know, Sheena, what do you feel about that? But I've always somehow found that to be a little bit of this holding back.
Also, I think, Roshan, a lot of it comes from also the idea that because we've worked also in such a, for lack of a better word, in the theatre space, for lack of a better word, like jugaad manner. It's been like you just figure it out on the fly. That the muscle action only of going out there and collaborating with other people is less. And I think places like Kommune really encourage going out, reaching out to more people and collaborating in different manners.
Correct. So that's what happened. And, we reached out, we had a whole bunch of people who came in. Thankfully, actually, we had all worked on a play last year. So we were a little more I think some of the people were already in tune because they'd done a play, so they knew if they got a call from us, what would happen. Next slide. Um, one of the funniest things, and maybe Sheena, you can talk about this.
We had an actress who was joining us, and she was living in Goa. And we were very keen on working with her, and she was also very excited. But we did 2, 3 readings, and we just found that because of her internet, we just couldn't continue. She would just get frozen. And the thing is, with this kind of a script, it was so important to be able to keep the back and forth that actually that is why we had to ask her not to be part of the team, not because of anything to do with her acting skills or anything like that, simply bandwidth issues.
Yeah, so basically we said that in future on your resumes, there will also be bandwidth available, best speed at home. I can give you 24 Mbps or whatever. But less than a 10 Mbps connection at your core server end, you need that. I thankfully have a dedicated 100 Mbps connection that I've kept simply because everybody in the family is online, and nowadays, you need that. But I promise you, I also used to do this at the time of the performance. There's a software that you can download called Circle, and in Circle, I used to switch off everyone else's devices because you don't realize it, but at your house, everything from your television, which is a smart TV, to 3 other laptops where somebody is downloading a film, to people whose home mobile networks have switched to your home networks, all of them are taking your bandwidth. So it's very important at that point to do this. This is a very small thing, but it just makes everything a lot smoother. And I can't tell you, sometimes when you get people's images in HD, oh my God, it's a delight to watch. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. Also remember that if the light in your room, like right now, if I increase the light in this room, automatically my image will improve because these cameras, these device cameras are not film cameras. They are not meant for low light situations. They are not meant for extreme close-ups or extreme, far away kind of shots or whatever. So you've got to try and keep good light on yourself just to improve the image quality. Sometimes people tell say, something's wrong. It's not your bandwidth. It's just the amount of light on your face. It's the fact.
I was just going to say, Roshan, we had a few of our because the Hindi production came up later on. So by that time, a lot of the problems that we had were ironed out as well. So most of the people from our Hindi production actually invested and got themselves a ring light to be part of the show. And a ring light is something that they can use for auditions and stuff like that. But these are very important things that we had to check and double check before the show.
Yeah, and guys, a ring light is not very expensive. Under 2,000 rupees, a ring light comes, and with a ring light, there are 2-3 versions. So there's a big version, but 2,000 ke niche aa jati hai, and in that there is a little mount in which you can put a camera. And many of you may not know that in Zoom, you have the option of attaching not one camera but more. So many people don't do this. Many people don't realize that, there is a second camera you can place. You don't need to use your phone camera. If you have a DSLR at home, if you have a high, any camera that has an HD out and you can link it into your network, you can use that as your external camera and get a much better quality of image. Okay, so that's something which you could do. We were initially, there's a second play that Sheena and I have talked about often, and I keep saying that that's something which we will do there. And I've noticed a lot of that. So I'm saying these are important things. If you just want to, because ultimately people are watching an image, they're hearing audio, both need to be good. So don't compromise on these simple things. Next slide. Dhwani, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Sheena, I want to talk about the cast a little in both the English and Hindi.
Yeah, we were just so lucky to be able to get a cast of really brilliant actors, and everybody just came on board because they were so excited about what we were offering them, which was the chance to do a play. And it was going to be a live performance, and it was also a new experience for everybody. It was a learning experience for everybody. So we had Shreya who came up, there was Priyanshu, they played our lead as the boy and the girl who kept going on the dates. And then for Ashwin, Tanmay and Kira, it was, and myself, it was very exciting because we got to play multiple characters. So we were all of the weird and crazy dates that they went on. And Roshan, maybe you can talk about it next, about how we planned the thing of matching different dates and stuff like that. But it was also so interesting to see how, very small suggestions and shifting of camera, shifting of place, we could really create a whole different vibe. So for example, if I was doing one date with this kind of background, I'd just turn my camera somewhere else, change the lighting, have an outfit change, and it was a completely different day. And the thing is, the audience, just like the audience has suspension of, of belief in theater, they were willing to do that for our online.
And the one thing is that people who know the meter of theater, very often you're projecting, right? So most theater people, because in an auditorium and there's a distance between you and the audience, project a lot. And this was something that we noticed, and this is where Tess actually helped us a lot while casting, because I was going first to everybody I knew from the theater, and she was like, no, we can go to actors who know theater, who have the discipline of theater, or who will come for rehearsal, who will not want to learn 5 lines just before a scene. So these are the big classic difference is this, right? That theater people do tons and tons of rehearsal. They learn a whole play by heart at one go because they can't suddenly cook it up at the moment. But also because of the distance and because of what you typically call the fourth wall is gone and you're sitting at one fixed place and watching a play, everything, I mean, in classic form, is sometimes very exaggerated. The gestures are exaggerated. The voice is projected. The look is a lot more definite because you're wanting to make and accentuate those things. Of course, people try to do things very naturally in theater as well. And at Prithvi, you get that kind of intimacy. But if you perform to big auditoriums, there is a lot more projection, etc., that you end up doing. So classically, like in this, Ashwin, because he's done so much theater, there were times that we would have to tell him saying, you play it to the screen. Because playing to a screen is different from playing to a stage. To give you a small example, like if we were doing a scene right now and I do not need to do anything except come close to just a physical change here can make a big difference, right? In terms of just the positioning, or if I moved away or whatever, So these are very small things, but when you cast for a Zoom or play or whatever, keep these things in mind. You be honest and tell your actor saying, "Yaar, ye tone na, ye thodi real nahi hai. It's not working," because you want that suspension of belief. That's what's very, very important. Next slide. We also got a fabulous cast in Hindi, and again, this is the Kommune philosophy. Until someone says no, don't presume it. So we ask everybody. We will ask everybody to be a part of what we do, because there's no shame if somebody says no. They said no. But like Radhika Madan, she just finished this English medium film, and she'd come out from that. And again, Tess reached out to her because she was reading her for something. She said, "Would you like to do a play?" And she was like so excited, And Siddharth had just finished. I mean, in fact, I think when we were doing the show, his television show was also coming out, the Red Chilies show, the terror one. I'm forgetting the name. But he'd done that. Kubra, of course, after Sacred Games, she was traveling and doing lots of other shows. But again, everybody in the creative field is up to try something, as long as you're committed, as long as you're honest, and as long as you're we would often tell them, देखो क्या होगा पता नहीं है, कितने शो होंगे पता नहीं. This is not one of those, we'll do 200 shows. You don't know. And I genuinely feel that in the Kommune ethos, honesty is the best policy. So we always say, this is the script, this is what we're planning. We definitely will do 4 shows or whatever, etc., which will be 2, one will just be a dress rehearsal kind of thing. 1 we will do for friends and family. 2 we will do whatever. And we don't know what may happen later. But I think that was, people are willing to do things. You need to sometimes just reach out and ask. And your excitement is enough payment sometimes. I sometimes say that, I'm very often called, and Gaurav will always often say this, he says, you are a bloody reservoir of optimism. But I genuinely believe that ho jati cheez hai. So when I come, I'm like, ye karenge. And I think that's just one thing, that don't be a naysayer. Again, I'm just saying that don't bring negativity into a project. You will find, and if you spot a bad one, get rid of them. Thankfully, we didn't have that, but I've seen it in some other projects where I just get rid of a person. I'm very clear. I say no, because You nahi chahiye, wo negativity nahi chahiye. Everybody's trying something new for the first time, and that's what happens. Next. By the way, in the Hindi one which we just saw, I just forgot that in the Hindi one, Saurabh actually translated the entire play. Sheena, you want to talk about that? Sorry.
Yeah. So we had the play in English. We developed it in English, and we wrote it, of course, for an Indian context, for an Indian audience, and the references and all were very much so based in our culture. But then we wanted to do the show in Hindi as well. And we got Saurabh on board and he translated it. And now the thing is, again, even when you're working with translation, it's not just somebody who knows Hindi. And it's not just, taking a line in English and writing it in Hindi. Because Saurabh was able to really give a completely different feel to what the Hindi dates were like. So essentially, what we did have by the end of it was two different plays. The concept might have been the same, but in the journey of it, we developed two different unique plays. And each actor brought their own, personality to it. So, and that's something that I think you cannot shy away from when you're doing a Zoom show, is that each actor is going to bring their own personality and their own artistic vision to it. And if you are willing to play and willing to open the doors to that, you can really create some fun magic things. Yeah.
Yeah. Next. Yeah. So when at the press started writing about the play, and people were telling you all about oh, we've got such a great cast, and theatre stalwarts talking about what they did, and so we got a lot of press. And again, I believe if you do something nice, tell the world about it, shout from the rooftops. Ye na ghar gussu mat bano. I keep telling people saying, no, I'm doing it. No. Boss, tell the world. Otherwise, how will they know? Don't just keep echoing in your own little chamber. Our big thing was that when we asked for feedback, and when you do your dress rehearsal, see, good feedback, very welcome, very nice. Bad feedback, far more important. Feedback where people criticize you, far more important. So like when we do Spokenfest, I don't ask the people who love, oh, I love it, that's great. What did you not like? What was not working? So somebody said that, it was fabulous. The Shreyas, who's the head of Insider, a very good friend of mine, and Shreyas is one of the smartest tech guys. And when he saw what we'd done, he was like blown away. He said, "Oh, this is fantastic, great work." And then he turned and said, he says, the beauty of it is that if somebody walks away from screen and walks back, they can't press, replay, right? So it's happened live once. So I said, okay, that's great, but what else? He says, yeah, the only thing is that I'm still a passive viewer. And in a theater, what are the things that happen in theater? So we started thinking, and we said, oh, there's shared laughter. Great. There is this presence. You feel the presence of other people. Great. You sometimes spot someone across the aisle and you see someone there. Yeah. You are, of course, witness to a performance where today somebody was, oh my God, they were killing it. And one day they were not, and all that happens. But we realized that when we are doing stuff online as a play, the one thing that people suddenly, you are now competing with anything that's on a screen. You're competing with PUBG, you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with YouTube, you're competing with Spotify, anything that is visible on a screen, because we are presenting this on the same screen, and it'll take you 5 seconds right now to switch from here to another thing, right? So how do I keep you engaged? That's where we said interactivity is important. And the biggest thing was, initially we said there'll be date 1, date 2, date 3, date 4. And what we now did is we created 5 dates that the boy could be on and 5 dates that the girl could be on. And we gave the audience choice. So the original play doesn't have a character called Cupid, but we created a character called Cupid. Next slide. Again, Cupid is like a stand-up comedian. So we used a stand-up comedian, Anshu. Or Cupid is like an anchor who is on the spur. So I've hosted for 20 years plus, and and my biggest strength is as a host is that I can gauge quickly what's going on and I can come up with stuff on the spot. So you needed either an extempore speaker or a stand-up comedian, and therefore we use both. But the joy of this was that now our play had one more layer, that our play starts in heaven. and heaven mein there are clouds moving around and there is a song playing and Cupid is talking and saying, oh, what a bird, what's happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm bored. Are you bored? Now, the minute he asks, are you bored? And you can see people's names in the chat, and he suddenly turns and says, Asad, are you bored? Dhwani, are you sick of moving those slides? Sheena, how long are you going to sit on that chair? Now, the minute you have done that, you have activated that relationship. And that's what we used to do. And we would do that, and you would turn and say, Acha, when is the last time you went on a date? Now, people, you make the invisible visible. And in Zoom theater, either you're so engaging that people are riveted to the screen, which also I've seen some great productions. But in a comedy, what do you want? You want to hear people's laughter. You want to hear them. So virtual clapping, virtual laughter. And frankly, now very soon you'll be able to add those elements. But I experimented with everything. I used to record people's laughter and keep it on the side in some shows to try test it. But it doesn't work because at that time Zoom didn't allow two audio inputs at the same time. But if it would have allowed, I promise you, I would have played it the way studios have rom-coms performed with a live audience, and you can hear there. Because the minute you could have heard that laughter, it would have added. But when you couldn't, you tell people saying thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, do ye karo, whatever, etc. Clap karo, aisa karo, whatever, and that interactivity suddenly makes for a lot of interaction, but it needs a really sharp host. So that's how we created Cupid. Sheena, you want to talk about Cupid and what we did a little more?
And what was really exciting about the Cupid idea, and which Roshan brought to the table, was that it kind of became like pick your own adventure. So the audience, because we had a poll, so the audience, just like you're seeing right now, Anshu and Roshan side by side, we used to have a graphic that Arsalan created that came up almost like you were looking at it on an app on your phone. Should our boy go out on a date with this person, or should our boy go out on a date with this person? And the audience had to vote. And that was so exciting because that really got everybody really charged up. And a couple of people would, even come back to be like, what if we tried this? I know a few people who watched the show a second time just to be like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're actually giving me the choice. What if now I push for Anshu? Earlier I saw the date with Roshan. What will happen then? And we had it all planned out. So even though we had rehearsed and written, I think it was 8 dates that were rehearsed and written, the audience only saw 6. And so at the end of the show, we tell them that you'd only see 6 dates. That also became another hook. Oh, maybe I want to come back and see what will happen next.
Yeah. And this gamification is a great thing. So I am actually, and if any of you want to, please write to us, because we are working on a murder mystery where again, I want to gamify a lot more. I want to gamify kisko interrogate karenge. I want to gamify. So you remember Cluedo, the game, and it had a television show around it. Sheena and I've been pushing and we've never had the time, but I think now we should just do it because, it's just that it is so much fun doing this and whatever and planning it, because if you have friends who make games, bring them in, because you require, I promise you, I used to have a flow chart next to me on the wall, which would say, if they select, so Sheena's character, so for example, suppose this is happening, right? There's Kubra and there's Sheena. And Kubra is playing the Bali beach girl, and Sheena is playing the person who is phobic. But now you can't turn and say, if I said Bali beach girl or phobic, you would never pick the phobic, right? You'd pick the Bali beach girl, but you have to make it sound also interesting. You have to make both dates sound really interesting. Jisko beach pe pasand hai jana, wo zyada acha hai. Or, the girl who's always looking out for things, who'll always look out for the man. And I turned it around, didn't say it as it was. And now, suppose they selected Kubra. The next time Sheena's date has not played. So Sheena's date needs to come back. So I used to have a second write-up where I would have to now talk about turning and saying ke bachpan se bahut dari hui thi. She was always scared of something. Wouldn't you want to take care? Make it whatever. But you cooked it up. But it was so it was, there used to be this flow. And by the way, we also had, and we would talk about music a little later, but everything would change. There was a music cue sheet. So I would have an iPad next to my iMac on which I would be playing the music, because at that time they didn't allow you a second input in April. Now they do. So you're a little smarter. You can play it off your computer. But I used to play it off here.
We also
and there are
had
small.
Sorry.
No, Sheena, go ahead.
I was just going to say we also had some, and this is just pulling the curtain back to really give you a sense of all the dhamal that was happening. We had one case where two pictures went up. I think it was Shikha and Kubra. Both of them went up, and something happened, and Kubra couldn't find her costume. So she was sending us messages on WhatsApp. I don't know what I've done with my costume. And so then we had to then feed that information to Anshu to be like, please see if you can try and push the audience to choose Shikha. So there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of improv stuff and stuff that we had to just come up with on the fly.
Yeah, but again, remember that this show has therefore been built in a manner where there is gamification, in a manner where there's interactivity, in a manner where you're trying to do this thing. It's not doesn't happen with every show that you could do. Next. So when you design a play for Zoom, or how do you do it for this kind of screen? And I think Sheena was telling you a little bit about what we were doing. So your stage manager is actually a Zoom manager. And I've been telling people since April, saying a good Zoom operator can earn $1,000 an hour. Because if you're smart at switching, I can't tell you what people are able to do. They're doing some wonderful things online. And guys, there is a small theater festival which is going on just now called the Red Curtain Festival. And if you look it up, they are doing some amazing work. So I think you now need a technologist as part of your team, not the light designer, not the sound designer, not the scenery designer alone, but a technologist. Because what you can do next with Zoom, with other tech, and there's so many technologies now that are available. If you start working with Insider has already built a layer on top of Zoom which allows you interactivity. Now they're building another layer that launch on the 7th of December. But it's very important. So it's very important to have a geek in your team. Secondly, just as what Sheena told you about prompting. So our prompting was, nobody can prompt you live, right? Nobody can whisper from the wings. Nobody can show you a script. What do you do? So it was important to have a WhatsApp group where prompting was going on. Sheena, you want to talk about any of these?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, which is that, we started very early on in the early days of Zoom and stuff like that, but we were still very clear that we wanted to have a unified aesthetic. And that's where Arsalan stepped in and really helped us, because we acknowledged that, yeah, we don't have the technical know-how to make super fancy things. But Arsalan said, I can make something that is simple looking but very clean looking. And so we worked a lot with colors and stuff like that. So all of our graphics had the same language, this very cartoony emoji language. And then we were able to take that into the space as well. So for our actors, we were very particular. What are the colors that they're going to wear? What do you see in the background? And it wasn't something that was very, expensive or anything, but we managed to have a unified aesthetic language that really helped just tie it all together and just lifts it on a dramatic level.
Yeah, and we used to have a webinar option of 100 people, and I have seen people who have been able to do shows with. So you can do either a Zoom webinar or a Zoom meeting, and in a Zoom meeting, everybody is there, and they would actually, now that you can spotlight just the actors, they will tell other people to keep their cameras on, because the actors can see them and can see their reactions, and you can mute everyone else. So it's possible, again, with smart people, to unmute everyone at one time, mute everyone together. All of these things are possible, and they recreate that energy and vibe a little that people want. So I'm saying it's important to have graphic designers, technologists as part of your team if you're trying to do something online. Next slide. And we have this slide for only one reason, guys. I know that many people will tell you that, "Arey, creative hai, try it, let's do it for free." The Kommune ethos is to do nothing for free. We don't. We are very clear that when we perform, there has to be, even if it's some money coming to a performer, there has to be some money coming to a performer. So we put a ticket price of $4.99. And I'm telling you one thing: don't undervalue what you do. Do not get stuck in this thing of, oh, will they pay or whatever. If you go after them, they will. And we have a small sales team, very small, 3-member sales team at Commune. But they went and they sold a show to Unacademy, where we integrated a little bit of Unacademy, a little bit of one or two teaching jokes, one something. We sold a show to Cred. These are just interesting things, and people were extremely happy. Both the brands were very happy. Um, you sometimes have to, again, and the joy of having, if the chat is enabled, because you can disable chat also, right? But if chat is enabled, you've got to be smart enough to even interact with a bad person, because they've invited someone saying, ye kya ho raha hai, mujhe to pasand nahi hai. All that is possible, but you've just got to be sharp enough in putting the entire thing together. And I think that's what we managed to do, and managed to do well. So this is the kind of thing that happened, that people were saying this is the most innovative thing that happened. People talked about online dating and were saying, my God, love this, love the session. And there was almost like, requests coming in. What about this kind of a date? What about that kind of a date? So it's possible to continuously evolve these things and keep playing with them. Next. Yeah, Sheena.
Yeah, so for promotion is something that was really important, because like Roshan said, we are competing against so much content out there. So we had a plan, and because it was going to be, everything was online, we said we really have to push it also on our social media. So the wording is very important. We needed audiences to know that this is a live play. This is not something that has been recorded. You are watching it happen live. At Commune, we have a very active Instagram and very active YouTube, Facebook page, but primarily Instagram is where we really pushed it out. We also, our actors that we are working with are also people who are very, very active on social media. So we managed to get them also to do a lot of posts, and it was important for us to create a buzz about it. And the creating of the buzz also, we have to tell people that, listen, this is something new, this is fresh, this is not something that you've experienced. And I think that a lot of the times when we're working in the creative field, for theatre, for example, we're so focused on just getting the show ready that we forget that promotion is also such an important aspect of it. And that's where it really helps to have something like Commune, because they're the, Commune backing it, because they're the people who are like, okay, you guys focus on creating the work, we will focus on making sure that everybody knows that the work exists.
Yeah, I also often tell people this story about, my friends who had gone to perform at Edinburgh Fringe. So, these bunch of people went to perform at Edinburgh Fringe, and when they did, they took a venue and they went for rehearsal, and then they went and said, Acha, now what do we do about ticket sales? So they said, go and sell them. And they were like taken aback, saying, no, but that's not our job. They said, no, that is your job as well. And I know, and I can tell you this as a creator, as a person who has been doing this now for 30 years, in my early days, I was very embarrassed about asking for money. 5 years later, I was a little less embarrassed. Afterwards, I reached a point where I said, listen, if you don't ask, you won't get it. And so it is important to Tom, and that's why I said use every method possible. And if you can't do it, find the right partner. I'm not saying it. Sometimes your work is very close to you. Sometimes it's not your skill set, just what Sheena said. But it's important. Otherwise, I often tell people this, that the amount of effort you do in creating the work, are you putting in selling? Because if you don't, do you like playing to an empty hall? No. Do you like the fact that, oh, nobody heard about it except you and your 5 friends? So please make it a point. And there are enough and more organizations, hacks of trying to get people, whether it's calling a journalist and saying, would this interest you? Whether it's a good podcast review person and calling them and saying, would you like to review this? Whether it's an LBB or any of these other platforms that people go to, BuzzFeed, everything else, and just go to them and ask them. So I'm saying it's very important. And we used to offer all that's on the slide to brands who were also very interested in saying, oh my God, one of the key actors is going to promote us. So all of these things matter. But it really does work for everybody. And this Q&A at the end with the cast, by the way, don't think it's a small thing. It has great value because people feel, oh my God, I am in the green room, right? So it's like a green room experience. And many people have started doing this now. And even if you don't charge this green room experience for people who are willing to pay, or the fact of once you've watched the play, getting them to talk to the cast and the cast exhorting to people saying, hey, listen, we've done this, but if you can contribute to the cause or do whatever. I mean, how many times when a play gets over, somebody in the cast walks forward and says, today we're collecting money for this and we're passing the hat around. So it's the same thing. Don't think that that is not part of your remit. It's equally important to that. Next. Okay, so this is something that Sheena worked on. And when we were talking about this, we said it's been so many months into the pandemic and we didn't want to talk about only what we did in April, May as such or whatever, but we thought we will talk about some other things. So this is entirely something that Sheena worked on with our entire team. It's a very different show. So Sheena, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to talk about this briefly because I'm also aware of time. But we did a collaboration with this organization called Inner Hour. And Inner Hour focuses on mental health and mental health awareness. And they wanted us to do a theater show with them. So when we were putting that together, we had a few things that we wanted to, few criteria that we wanted met. So number one was choosing the right artists. Because when it comes to things like mental health, we had to be incredibly sensitive and incredibly aware of who the artists that were performing were. So we managed to once again get some incredible writers and performers. Again, people who themselves have been advocates for mental health. So that was the content part of the show. Then another thing, and this, this engaging the audience before the show, this kind of continuation of the previous slide. We wanted to engage audiences and we wanted to get people interested in watching the show. But we didn't just want to do the simple, hey, we have a show happening on the 10th, aajao. Or, countdown, 5 days left to the show. What we did was we created little posts like the one that you see on the screen about mental health and about, mental health temperature checks. How are you doing? What are conversations about mental health? And if you see, this post says nothing about the show, but it just gets audiences aware and it gets our, people who follow us on social media, it gets their mind ticking that, oh, mental health is something that they're talking about. So this is another way of approaching it as well, to just initiate the conversation around the show, especially in a show like this where we felt that the content was so important for us. And finally, this documentary style of theater. Now, Zoom gives you that option. Zoom really gives you that option of, we do a piece. I say I'm here, I perform a monologue, and then after that, Roshan comes back and he interviews me on what that process was. So we really did that with Inner Hour. So we were constantly giving the audiences a little brief into, hey, this is the performance of it, but now let's talk to the artist and let's get to, the soul of the work. That was something that really, really got audiences very, very engaged. And it was like Roshan said, you can't hold people's attention more than an hour. But because this was more of like a documentary show, we were able to go up until an hour and 20 minutes, I think. And audiences were with us, because as a director, I'm looking at what are drop-offs. But with this show, surprisingly, there were very, very few people who dropped off. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, with Zoom, it's not only just about the show. It's about the fact that you can get this intimate space with the artists behind the show as well. So if you look at in the corner, the slightly longer post, we had 3 stories. So we had the storytelling theater aspect of it, but then we also did a little bit of workshop. So we spoke about these things, introduced these concepts, what it is to deal with mental health, what it's like to be a caregiver to somebody who suffers from mental health issues. And then after that, we did quick, I think it was 20 minutes, 10 minutes each workshops. So we had the audiences doing little exercises, writing little notes and, engaging in the chat box with stuff like that. And this is not something that you would be able to do in a live theater space. You wouldn't suddenly be able to get somebody in and just make it, like a workshop. but with Zoom gives you that liberty to do that. Yeah, thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please, Dhwani? So yeah, that was just a brief thing about another show that we did, and I just wanted to talk about that to just give you a sense that the scope for Zoom and Zoom performances are really, really wide, provided that you're willing to engage with that.
Yeah, I'm just going to actually share one or two things with you, which I have now recently seen. And again, I think that this whole thing which I was telling you all about being collaborative and doing things together is just so exciting because you learn so much more. So just to give you guys a little bit of a glimpse of something that I wanted to show you all. Can you all see this right now on your screen? Sheena, can you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So see, this is now again a Zoom shot, but look at how well they have done it. How smartly they have positioned just those 6 screens, and it is now 6 different actors. But it is done so smartly that you could have now almost created, and this is from the play Metamorphosis. So, this is showing you the metamorphosis of a person, right? I mean, you've seen the Kafka production if you have, I mean, in some form or the other, or you've read the book or whatever. But it is so beautifully done that it suddenly creates this one extremely exciting way of looking at. So, experiment with screens, experiment with cameras, experiment with inputs. I saw a play last week where somebody experimented with a moving camera. So there's a person locked in a house and he's constantly talking about COVID. And towards the end of the play, because so many people are talking, they all say, leave the house. And when he leaves the house, this man actually just used, one of those GoPro cameras. And from the GoPro camera, he was running down the corridor. Now, when he was running down the corridor, I suddenly realized that, it was so smartly done that do we need to create new sets, or can our surroundings be different sets? Another really wonderful thing that I noticed was the use of light. So I'm going to show you one more thing, which, I mean, it's very simple, of course, and this is, but see, just using a color wash. Now, if you used a color wash, which is here, which is red, and in Sheena's room, I also put a color wash, which is red, and I wanted to maybe do an interrogation scene between 2 people, suddenly light can be used as a method to create suspension of belief where you feel the 2 people are in the same room. Similarly, if suppose this was a natural room light, like right now, if you look at Sheena's light and my face light is different. But if you can match the face light, one of the smart things you can do is even that works beautifully, because ultimately theater has to work in this whole idea of suspension of belief, right? So you have to believe that you're actually there. And that's where simple things like this, if, for example, my camera is set low and Sheena's camera, which is viewing, so my camera is set low and Sheena's camera is set high, and I suddenly talked as if I'm standing and talking to her, and there's a neutral wall that finishes here and extends into Sheena's frame on the right. Again, if you were having a 2-window view, you will feel that it's the same environment. So I think just smartly playing with various things can make such a big difference in this. And that's what I would encourage all of you to possibly look at. The other thing apart from this is that, frankly, in terms of technology, I've been watching a whole bunch of Zoom plays, and I see people using simple things. Even for example, do you know that the background that you can create, right? You can chroma key yourself in a background, but today you can chroma key video as a background. Now, if you can imagine, if you smartly play a scene and you have got a 1-minute clip recorded behind you, which is on chroma, you can be anywhere. So I'm just saying that the limit is only your imagination. You have to be thinking it through. And as I keep saying, have one gaming person and one technologist as part of your team. I've seen another incredible performance where one guy actually painted his body in green. So he chroma keyed himself. So it wasn't the backdrop that chroma keyed, he was chroma keyed. Now, again, these are just simple, smart ways of being able to do things, but they only happen when you experiment. And it's the same way that you experiment when you first in your lives do walk into a play. I mean, when you walk into a theater and you look at a space and say, why can't I hang something from here? And why can't I put something there? And do I need a door? Why can't I just create, a frame? So bring the same innovativeness, the same ingenuity that you do, and the same there's a friend of mine, Arjun Bose, who he used a line very recently called the creativity of constraint. And I actually said that is such a wonderful way to look at it, right? That, I mean, there is a creativity that constraint creates, which in our Hindi, there used to be this phrase, majboori ka naam Mahatma Gandhi. We used to give, kuch nahi mila to namak, kuch nahi mila to lathi, kuch nahi mila to, like, वो innovate करते थे. Similarly, हम भी कर सकते हैं, पर वो do not give up because you don't know the medium. Find somebody who knows the medium. Find somebody who has a tech kida. We have a boy in our team called Arpit, who Sheena was talking of earlier. His only job was to find this kida. Sir, ye bhi ho sakta hai. This is the new launch. Now you can put a mustache. Now that you can put those couple of features. Now, you don't need a wig. You can actually put a mustache virtually. So if you do it smartly, if it's well lit, etc. So I'm saying these are small things that are all there. Do this, workshop ideas, get people together. That's what we do. We bring in a whole bunch of people, and it's not just like, and we'll have our internal team watch it. They will come in and say, can you try this? Can you do this? Can you attempt this? People are using the whiteboard that you have in Zoom now as an element as well in a show. So all of these things are very, very possible. Just keep that childlike enthusiasm and that curiosity and that creativity, and have happy collaborators like Sheena and Tess who always jump in and say, let's do it. And I must tell you, they'll be also saying that we've got two other, I mean, Sheena, and I don't know how these people do it, but they'll be doing 3 plays at one time. I've got this rehearsal in the morning. I can't do that. But, I'm rehearsing this in the morning. I've got this reading in the afternoon, and we'll do the play. But that's the kind of people that you need to make this happen. And frankly, if there's any idea we can help you with, we are very, very happy. We do something called an artist roundtable that happens at Kommune. Very happy to invite you guys to it. If any of you want to reach out to us, our ID is very, very simple. My ID is Roshan at community.co.in. That's KOMMUNEITY.co.in. Yeah. So commune with a K in the beginning and ITY at the end. .co.in. So if you ever want to write in, if there's any ideas that you want to share, but there's great Q&A. I've seen some really fun questions that are lined up. So let's get down to the Q&A. We've got more than time for it. I mean, we managed to do this in about an hour and 3 minutes. So Asad, are you going to be part of this, or?
No, I think y'all just take the questions from
the questions. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll get after that.
Sure. So the first question we have is, what does the future? No, actually, the very first one was just saying hoping to do more workshops with Sheena ma'am. So it's great. Somebody came, I think, and was around. Then Sheena, here's the question for you. When you perform in a theater space, there is an energy vibe from the audience which always interacts with the performer. In a virtual world, does it feel secluded, or does one feel disconnected? How did you guys tackle this? How does the next year look for performing theater artists?
Thank you, Gaurav. So I think, yes, initially there was this idea of it being a little bit disconnected. But I think, what is important with this medium is you can't expect from this medium what you expect from theater. And if you're trying to do that, then I think you're already doing yourself a disservice. There is a connection. There is some sort of a vibe, but it's very different from what it means to be in the same space. And for example, in Lockdown Love, we had it with an incredibly engaging chat box. So, and it was, it used to pop up. And because it was a comedy, our actors could also refer to the chat box. So in the middle of the scene, our actors would look at a chat box. And then, for example, I remember in one show, there was somebody in the audience who just refused to believe that it was happening live.
Right.
He just said, no, it's recording. I recorded. I just refused to believe it. So what Priyanshu did was, he started in the script itself, he did a little bit of an improv, and he started naming his family members. And all his family members had names of our people who are watching the show, people who are, in the chat box. So Naren was saying, I don't believe that this was happening. And Priyanshu would say that, my chacha and Naren, he used to always say. So those are like really exciting live, those energetic moments that you can have. Having said that, I also just want to mention, I watched a German work in production play, and what they had done was, it was a play about unrequited love. And what they did, what was so beautiful, is they had a Google Doc that they sent a link to. In the chat box, they put a link to a Google Doc, and so all of us, all the people went onto that. And I don't know if you know a Google Doc, but while you're typing, if you're looking at the doc, you can see me type. And what they made us do was, they made us write out a love letter to one of our boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. And it was so beautiful, because I would be writing the first line and somebody else would come in and write the second line. And that is the kind of like global connection that the theater space will never give you. So I don't think to answer your question in a slightly long, complicated manner, I don't think it is, can you replace this? Can you take this energy and replicate it in this medium? No. This medium has a different energy and a different connection, and all you have to do is find it and tap into it.
Great. The next question, Sheena, again for you. What were the advantages of performing on a digital medium? Could you make use of features that have otherwise not worked in a physical medium?
Not worked in a physical medium. Well, for one, we had great sets in the digital medium. Because we were in people's houses, so that was really exciting. Another thing that we were able to do was this gamification that Roshan spoke about. Sure, you could do it in a live space as well, but it was way more instant. The gratification is way more instant in the digital space. So that was exciting. Roshan, do you have anything to add to this as somebody who was audience and creator on this?
Yeah, so basically, see, that's what I said, that, could you make use of features that would otherwise not have worked in a physical medium? I'm not saying that, like, for example, this chat that is running constantly and using that is definitely a feature. The fact that you can use virtual backdrops for yourself, and therefore your set changes can happen in seconds and don't take minutes or whatever. I mean, there's no, that awkward silence between one scene to the other where four prop boys are rolling in something and somebody, trips on something, all that, which has happened to us in plays, which is also fun. But here you could switch immediately, which was one big advantage that digital had. Again, as I said, this use of multiple cameras and video, which integrates seamlessly. So I'll give you one other example that we in fact did in another show where Sheena was performing a piece. Sheena, me and Tess were hosting that show that I was telling you about. But let's say somebody was performing a piece, but they were not too sure of the piece. Now, what we did is, if Sheena and I were going to be interviewing that person in this environment, we got that person to come and record that piece on a single camera, set at the same place that you would have the camera that is recording us, and recorded that piece. Now, therefore, you played that video. Just remember that music still lags. For some reason, music still has a they've shortened it a lot, but music lags a little when it is playing as a video. So the frame rate of the video and the music doesn't match perfectly. They are trying to improve it drastically, but it's not happened entirely as yet. But if you were to play just a person talking as a video, wo ab bahut acha ho gaya. So we were able to almost play out the person's video and then switch to the person walking into frame. So if you have a nervous performer or you have somebody who wants to really put up a pristine bit, you can use a non-live input and simulate it live. I would not recommend it, but I mean, it's a hack that you can use, and that's one of the things that you can use as a feature. Again, as I said, that this whole thing about not having to do makeup. So by the way, you can also integrate snap lenses, Snapchat lenses into your camera. And I used to do that occasionally, on things. I haven't used it in a play, but I have seen people use it in a play. And snap lenses are something that you can even get your audience to use. So if you tell your audience to come on and take pictures. So I think a lot of this digital ability is something that you can definitely create.
And I think also very simply, you can collaborate. I can sit here and create a play with somebody sitting in Germany.
Correct.
I mean, how
Correct.
much funding will I need to be able to do that in traditional thing? I can just do it. I can collaborate with anybody
Yeah,
in the
the
world.
play I saw last weekend at this Red Curtain festival, had people from 16 countries. And they just said that for some of them said, listen, please don't mind if you're looking really sleepy because it's 3 a.m. and it was 6 a.m. But it was wonderful. It was incredible. And again, it was just an incredible set of sensibilities that one could interact with. There's a question from Urgyan The. Did either of you see the online version of Heroes of the Fourth Turning by Will Arbery, directed by Dania Tamor, if I'm not mistaken, if that's the pronunciation? If not, please keep your eyes and ears open if there's a recording. I'd love to, I haven't seen it, but I would love to see it. Sheena, have you heard or seen this?
I have not seen it, but I'm going to make a note of it right
Yeah,
now.
please make a note because I was about to take a screenshot. But thank you, Urgen. I wish you could tell us a little bit more about this because it would be very interesting to know. We are here equally to learn from you all and know. And again, guys, I mean, in the Q&A, if you can just type, anything that you have seen, anything that you've seen as an innovation, it would be fun to discuss this because we have a little bit of time. How many audience members did we have each time, Sheena?
I think we had 150 plus easily. And I think there were some of our earlier shows we did go higher than that.
Yeah, we did. I think the maximum we had at any point in time was about 200, 250. But the problem is that you can't, a chat with more than 250 people, you can't engage with because it runs so fast. It becomes impossible. So I found a way to scroll and stop, but you miss a lot of the good comments. So frankly, 100 is a very good number. 100 to 150 is a good number. Anything beyond that becomes difficult to control. But again, the other good thing about that was that at $4.99 a ticket, it was really good because, when you actually tell people saying you're being paid $5,000 for an online show, I think it's really exciting. And people are saying, man, I'm sitting at home doing this. It's just, it's nice. It just feels really good. Pratap has a question, Sheena. Will this online kill the orthodox theatre even after we succeed with COVID-19?
Yeah, for centuries, everybody is saying theatre is a dying art form, dying art form, dying art form. It has not gone anywhere. It will succeed. After COVID, it'll still be here. It'll take some time for us to be able to get back into the spaces like it was, but I do not think. I mean, what all withstood? Theatre is still here even after the coming of all of your digital platforms. If Netflix and Amazon Prime have not killed it so far, a virus is not going to kill it either. Then we have somebody else who says, what does the future hold for online Zoom plays?
Honestly, I think it is a genre by itself. And from what I have seen over the last 2 weekends, my God, I am blown away by some of the work that people are doing. I do believe that some of it will be, it's a great way, frankly. I felt that if tomorrow I have to do a film that doesn't require too much graphics, etc., etc., this is a great way to test it because, this is all, when you have stage plays that were adapted for screen, I somehow find this to be a great, just like podcasting has become a place where people are nowadays testing a lot of video concepts. And podcasts are becoming television shows and Netflix shows and films. I think you could actually do that because it gives a little bit of this element of being televised. And I think if you're looking for how to do an adaptation to screen, it's a great place to learn. That's one of the things that I have found as a huge positive here. Also, it's a great place to spot talent here. You can find so much new talent. You can work with so many new people as it was because that's something that happens. I also believe that if you come up with a play that is exciting and made for this and you do 4 shows a month, because again, remember, your night is someone else's day. So you're not stuck. You could be performing. I have seen people who do 3 workshops on Saturday, not plays, workshops, but they do them because they're trying to appeal to different time zones. So they do one in the morning at 10, they do one at 2 in the afternoon or 3, and they do one at 10 because they're doing it for the US. It's incredible. I think somebody used line saying geography is now history. I think that's so true because again, as Sheena said, the connection that you can make is immense. And again, collaboration. See, again, right now, all of you who are listening, I don't even know where all you are from, but you could be from so many different places, and we could be collaborating and acting and doing something. What a wonderful thing to be able to do together. What's next? Do you all have thoughts?
Do you have any thoughts, experiences around accessibility and making work accessible for folks with physical or linguistic or technological barriers?
Go ahead, Sheena. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that yes, it works in 2 ways. Number one, the technological barriers is definitely something that we need to think about. And I think definitely from a workshop environment, we have been thinking about this, because how do you get to, doing workshops for audiences for, be it children or whoever who may not have access to the kind of internet that we sitting in our privileged homes might have. So that is definitely something. But I think that what's happened now is, especially in a city like most of our cities, no matter where you are, some sort of an internet connection is available. So I just conducted theater workshops for an NGO, and it was a very simple setup. It was like it was a webinar, and when we could manage to have, and I was told beforehand that make it so that there are points where everybody can put their camera on, and if there is somebody who can't put their camera on, I had somebody on the side who was handling the chat. Then there was another person who was also on WhatsApp. So if there was somebody who was having a real problem and they were dropping off, they were giving them, the lesson updates and the exercise updates on WhatsApp. So in that sense, we managed to keep everybody on the same page throughout the workshop. But I just want to say one more thing about physical. I have seen a play with, it was more of like a storytelling show with some people with individuals who had physical disabilities. And again, it's wonderful because they're in their house. And so many, if you think of so many of our theater spaces are just not wheelchair accessible. And they are so closed off to people who have various needs that need to be fulfilled while accessing a space. Whereas here, they can still perform, still reach their audiences, but it is from the comfort and from the care of their own homes. So that's also an incredible thing about this online medium.
Yeah, I'm just going to add 2 things. One is that, yes, the internet has become a bit of a dividing point between people who have access and people who don't. So it's created one more barrier in one format. So folk artists have suffered. But I've always found many people who've gone and actually Sanjoy Roy and his team people are trying to digitize so much work that is being done by folk artists and trying to find methods in which they can perform. Also, remember there is a international platform that you all should look at, which is called Drift Live, DRIIFT.live. Now, this is set up by a guy who was an agent in LA and whatever. And what he said my artists were a little more senior. They were not the Billie Eilish. They were not the very young millennial Gen Z artists. So he said, I realized that my audience just wants a beautifully pristine, one of a kind or once in a lifetime experience. So he actually collaborated with a lot more television producers and said, come shoot this band in a unique manner. And that became for unique live content. So for a lot of folk artists, I think it's important that you all take the opportunity of getting some visual designers, some cinematographers, some directors to say, hey, what can you do with them? In a very strange way, and it's not the perfect example, but what Ankur has just now done with folk artists for sound tripping on MTV, it's nothing. He knew the artists and he went out to them. Of course, they're making it for television, but I think the same can be done with theater as well. But somebody will need to tell them that, देखो भैया ये अगर आपको puppets करने हैं तो इसको सिर्फ एक सामने से frame लगा के करोगे तो इतना मजा नहीं आएगा. Maybe we now need a close up on the puppet's face. Maybe we now need something on the hands and we keep cutting between them. Maybe we now need to have one camera from backstage which you can access, which is a premium camera. So these are all things you need to figure out. I also must tell you that in linguistic terms, one of the big advantages is that many of these formats are allowing you live transcription. It can either be typed transcription or it can actually come from people's conversations. I saw it this morning, it was fabulous. And what Sheena said, I'll just add to the two plays I saw, both of them had people who were specially abled and they did a fabulous job in both the plays. So thank you so much for that. Vijay, good to see you here, number Vijay. Firstly, Vijay, it's always great to see you because I think you're a fabulous performer and I hope you keep looking for new ways to experiment. Um, your question, Sheena. The big benefit of an online medium is almost an endless reach. With such innovations, do you foresee virtual shows continuing to thrive even after the physical spaces become semi-normal?
I think so. I think so. What do you think? What do you think, Roshan? I think that this kind of performance really, I think it's just in the beginning and there's so much space for it to grow.
Absolutely. Urgen, thank you that I pronounced your name correctly. As a host, I normally try to get these things right. So thank you for that. Ketki, I'm so glad you're here, number one. Ketki goes by the handle Spoken by Heart, and she's a big follower of Commune wherever we go. But more than that, what she's talking of is the Spoken reunion. So this is what we did. Spokenfest used to happen in Geo Garden. We went to a gaming company and said, can you make a virtual Geo Garden kind of place for us? And they were so excited because apart from the regular briefs of making corporate people look nice, they were coming on with a typewriter which you could type your messages and send into the universe, and a spoken gully which looked so trippy and psychedelic. Thank you, Paul. I'm so glad you enjoyed the session. It's so nice to know. Ketki's last point. Sheena, I want to just read that out. I think I'm running out of...
COVID has been a blessing for newcomers like me, and we have now gotten better accessibility and that we are able to develop our skill with the help of platforms like Commune. Thank you so much, Ketki. That's so lovely. Any advice for freshers who want to enhance their art? My thing is just, my advice is just two things. Number one, and this is not for freshers, this is for all of us artists. Upskill. And like Roshan has been saying right from the beginning, that this is a new medium that has a new language. So don't get scared by things like technology, and don't get scared by, collaborating with the right people. But that's something that I always think is very important, is just try to get better at your skills. And another thing is, at some point of time, you just have to throw caution to the wind and go out there and perform. So even if it's not in the zone of this kind of a Zoom show, ticketed on Insider or Book My Show, wherever, even if it's just you going live on your Instagram handle, and even if it's just 8 people watching, have those people give you feedback. How did that go? Make notes, build. It's the only way that, as artists, we can grow and thrive and hope to create better work.
The point, Ketki, that I want to add to that is that every artist finds their rhythm. You don't know your set rhythm, right? And that's why you've got to be. This thing about just jumping in is such an important thing to be able to do. I don't know whether you attended Sheena's workshops at Spoken every time when we do them. But so many of those exercises are about jumping in and doing things that you're suddenly looking at the person next to you and saying, why am I doing this? But you do it because of that shared energy. Mahita is a performer that you all know. Mahita's performed with us. Mahita just has started putting up now these classical stories from the Mahabharata and Ramayana and her interpretation. And this morning I heard a beautiful 8-minute piece she had done about Krishna and his, Krishna's sister. I think Subhadra is who she was talking of, and Arjun and her kidnapping. But the way she interpreted it was so beautiful. So I just wrote saying, I really feel that you found your groove. So every artist needs to find their groove. Before finding the groove, ये experiment करना बड़ा important है. I was in college when in Delhi, and our seniors wanted to do a play which was based on a Somerset Maugham short story called Lord Mondrago. It was a horrible idea. It was a horrible script. It was a horrible bunch of actors. I was in an auditorium filled with people who were booing us from the first get-go, but because I was really loud, I just out-shouted them. It could have possibly scarred me for life, and I could have walked away saying, never again. But I just took it in my stride, and I remember Amir Raza Hussain was there, and he was holding an audition later. And when I went to him, he said, "Oh, the boy that shouts." I said, "Yes, I can outshout most people." You have to be able to take it in your stride. Yeah, don't be scared. Yeah, my last point to you guys is we make such a all our bestseller lists are filled with successes and number one, how to be whatever. I really feel there needs to be a fun failure list in life, and everybody should look at a fun failure list and say, so what? You tried. You put out a pebble of possibility into an ocean of opportunity. It sank. It worked. Decide, but don't stop trying. Don't stop experimenting. I think we are out of questions and perfectly on time, and Asad's going to give us 5 points for doing that.
No, I'll give you all 10, 5 each. But thank you, Roshan, Sheena, for the sharing your insights on your projects and your vision on the future of theatre. Putting my opera house hat on, it was also very encouraging to hear how you all are, so passionately believe that, theatre is going nowhere and it'll be back. And, I think this time has taught us all so many things. We've adapted, we've learned, technologies only help. These are not new things. Technology is not new. Collaboration is not new. It's been there before. But we're optimizing it to our benefit. And just listening to you all, I said, oh, those things can be used, when people come back and actually do physical live events. And technology also going nowhere from here. People are used to consuming stuff online. So it's going to be a good, healthy mix, which gives you your reach, but gives you also that, you need your audience interaction one-on-one. And I'm really hearing you talk about your theater experience when you were a kid. It reminded me, my first play was The Ghost of Jerry Bundler, and I won an award for it. But on that happy note, thank you to, our partners, the Ghoda Association, Kommune India, Opera House, for partnering with us. I mean, this was a wonderful, wonderful program. I mean, this has been 2 weeks of programming that we have on the collaboration to 2020 and looking at the future of collaboration and what it's going to do for the industries we work in. Thank you to our participants who join in day out and keep us going. Stay tuned for more information on our programs. You can stalk us on social media or check us out on our website. Our next session will be next Saturday, which is Past Present Reinventing Heritage, with Ed Hollis, which is going to be on the 5th of December, and many other programs to come. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember that learning never stops. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Safe trip, Asad. Safe trip.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.